Who is God? Yeah, I figured, hey, I'm making these videos, might as well start with some lightweight questions that no one really thinks about these days, and it's just a side note to our existence. So, well, as you know, if you've been listening and watching my recent videos, then you know that I don't really have a plan. I don't have a script. I don't have any notes in front of me, anything. I just wait until the day of recording to receive inspiration on what I should talk about. And it's really not me. I'm not trying to talk about it. It's really me trying to surrender to what wants to express itself through me. So here we go. Who is God? Well, obviously I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to cause any religious infighting. I don't want to trample on anyone else's beliefs. This is just my perspective and my observation as far as my journey goes up to this very moment. And it may change, obviously. This journey is very dynamic, and certainly the inner healing and growth that comes with that is something that is always unexpected and always something highly dynamic that often has humbled me greatly. So over the last few years or so, I have been focusing heavily on my own inner healing, and primarily with the opening of the heart. So if you listen to any of my previous videos, you know that our fear, our pain is like an armor around our heart. And our fear, our pain is basically all the stuff that is preventing us from accessing our heart and therefore accessing our true self, our true essence, our soul, whatever you want to call it. But that which we really are internally at the core level. So I've been working very heavily on my own healing, and with that obviously comes I don't want to say destruction, but the decomposition of the ego. And the ego is simply a artificial construct that has built itself upon the basis of our pain and our fears and anxieties and doubts and all that stuff, most of which we encountered during childhood. So the ego wants to keep us safe. The ego wants to keep us in the safe zone, and therefore we're never going to, at least to the ego's plans, we're never going to grow out of that zone, and therefore never going to achieve our highest potential. You hear it all the time when certain high-performing athletes or CEOs say, your highest potential lies outside of the comfort zone, and that's certainly true in my experience. So from my perspective, as I have undone a lot of these heavy, thick layers of fear, anxiety, worry, doubt, low self-esteem, those kinds of things, I am now in the process of getting closer to my core, to my soul, and being able to now very clearly distinguish between the voice of the ego and the voice of the heart. Now, you have probably seen or read or heard about, in many different cultures and many different religions, they all talk about the importance of the human heart, right? Now, Brother Yeshua, commonly known as Jesus, said that your heart is your access, right? Your heart is the most important aspect of your human being. Your heart is the portal to God. I'm paraphrasing now, but that's certainly been my experience. So as more of these layers of fear and pain have released, I'm now starting to open up my heart more, and I am now in full agreement that the human heart, once it's healed, is your direct portal to that which most people call God. And I understand that, the word God may be triggering, and it certainly was triggering for me for a long time. And that's a whole story for another video, and certainly for other Substack posts. because it's a deep well. But think about all the tremendous atrocities and pain and suffering and misery that has been inflicted upon our species, on mankind, under the name of God. So now, as this great awakening, or the great remembering, as I like to call it, is starting to happen, we see people, connecting with that universal life force. They feel it. It's within them. It's starting to express themselves through their being, and so they're calling it all kinds of other names like source, creator, universe, universal life force, whatever you want to call it. What I have found out through my connection now with that force, whatever you want to call it, is they don't really care about names. They don't care about labels. They don't really care what we call them. And now you might be wondering, wait, you're calling God them and they? Yes, and that has nothing to do with, the liberal BS that we're being exposed to now. In my experience, what I have found is that God is a family. It is our divine family, from where we all come from where our souls come from. We have a divine Father, we have a divine Mother, and we have divine brothers and sisters. So that is who God is to me. That is how they have shown themselves to me. And that, for me at least, put a lot of pieces together. Because we know creation is both male and female, right? And the Bible tells us that we were created in the image and likeness of God. So if that is true, then, and if God was just a man, as most people refer to him, then we would only have men running around on this realm. But we have women, and we have brothers, and we have children, and we have families, right? That is our species. That is the expression of our species. We have men, women, children, brothers and sisters. We have families. That's how we procreate. That's how we create. That's how we bring forth the universal life force in the shape of a human, of a man and a woman. So there's a lot of talk about the Divine Mother coming back, and depends on how far down you go some of these rabbit holes, that the Divine Mother had been suppressed for a long time due to some very complex spiritual and psychotechnological things that supposedly were going on for a long time. I'm not going to go into that, but we can see even in nature, right? Obviously there is male and female. There is none of the there's no expression of both within one, right? So as some of these pains and fears have been released from my body, now there's much less noise in the head, because the ego, like I said, is based on the fear and the pain. And so as long as there's fear and pain, there's going to be a lot of noise in the head that's trying to distract you from the pain and the fear. So as I noticed that as more and more layers of fear and pain release from my body, the mind gets quieter. Now, I'm not perfect, the ego is still there, don't get me wrong. It's a very stubborn sucker. But almost every day I'm chipping away at it. So it was actually this morning when I was in my early meditation and prayer, and I had, again, at that moment, I had no idea what I was going to talk about. But in my deep meditation and prayer, I connected with our divine family. And then the topic of today's talk came to me. And I was like, oh, really? You want me to talk about that? Okay. And then I felt a fear in my lower gut, sort of in the sacral chakra area. And it felt weird. It felt foreign to me. It didn't feel like a fear that was mine. And so I went in there, I dug deeper and tried to figure out, okay, what is it? Where is it coming from? And long story short, I discovered that it's the fear that I don't have the authority to to speak about God. And digging a little bit deeper into it, I sort of got a flash memory of me. I don't know how old I was. I mean, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old at the most. I was in a Catholic church with my mom. She was the only one I saw. Maybe my dad was there too. My dad is Muslim, so he probably didn't go. But so I was in this church, and I remember just being overwhelmed, like, whoa, what's all this? And these sounds and this huge sort of stage with all this crafty arts, adornment and decorations, and all this massive sort of celebration and people, in the rows of these benches. And so I got the impression that, this is what you need if you want to talk about God. You have to be a pastor, you have to be a priest, and you have to be on the stage, and you have to go, through certain education, and you have to have a church, and you have to have, all this stuff to talk about God. And so, I don't know how or why I picked up this fear of, I'm not good enough to speak about God. I don't have the authority. I don't have the education to speak about God. I need all this stuff. And then maybe I'll be okay to talk about God. When in fact, anyone can talk about God. Your experience of God is within you. It's in your heart. All of us have access to it. It's just that our pains and fears have blocked us from that access. We don't really know how to get to the core heart of our being as long as there's fear and pain stopping us from it. Because really, the fear and the pain that we feel as children, when we are exposed to traumatic events, we feel it in our heart first. That's the center of our being. This is the emotional center of our being. That's where we feel the pain and the fear. And as children, we don't have any other defense mechanism except shutting it down to stop feeling that pain. And over the past few weeks, I realized some of the things that I had done when I first went to elementary school, and I was bullied by the kids and reprimanded by the teachers because there was one day where I just didn't go back into class. I just didn't want to. I stood outside and I kept playing on this climbing structure, and my teacher had to come out and pull me back into class because I didn't want to. School was so annoying to me, and I had all this energy. I wanted to express myself. I wanted to play. I wanted to be just be myself. And then of course school just suppressed all that, and then the bullying and stuff. And so I remember there was this moment when, as a kid, I think it was in first grade at some point, pretty early on. And of course there were other traumatic events up until that point. And I just remember sort of feeling like, why is this world so cruel to me? What have I done to deserve all this meanness? Why is everyone so mean to me? And I'm just trying to be a kid. I'm just trying to play with people, right? And have fun. But that moment I realized, okay, well, if everyone's going to be so mean to me, at home there's stress and worry and fear all the time. My parents are fighting, and then here now I go to school and I have class and I have other kids I want to play with, but now there are these teachers who reprimand me for being a kid. So I'm like, what is this world? Why is it so mean to me? Why is everyone on my case? And why do I keep feeling all this pain from all these people? Why do these people keep inflicting pain on me? And so I shut down. And then out of that came the drive to be the entertainer. I became the class clown. I wanted to make people laugh. I wanted to be accepted. Okay, well, if I can't just be me and have people accept me for who I am, then I'm going to make them laugh. And maybe that is going to help me. When in fact, it was just a coping mechanism for me to express my feelings. I thought, okay, well, I can't be myself. I can't be my full, true self and express my feelings the way they are coming out of me. I have to shape myself into something else to be accepted in class and accepted in society for expressing these feelings. And that's why I had such a drive to be an entertainer. So, long story short, I wanted to be an actor, and that's how I came to America first, to be an acting student. And then I was also in music. I was in the electric guitar, and then later on I played drums. But that's the whole story for another day. All that to say is, let's get back to God. And who is God? Well, like I said, to me, God is a family. We have a father, we have a mother, and we have brothers and sisters. Every once in a while, the big brothers and sisters, they come down here and they try to remind us, hey, you, just a gentle reminder that you're part of this divine family and you're here to learn a specific lesson. Now, I know what my lesson is, at least up to this point, and I'm not going to get into it now because it's a long story. But this is a school here. Not a very comfortable one, and there are certain aspects to it that, if I go into it now, you would, at least, it helped me understand the world the way it is. And but I'll save that for another video. So for now, I just wanted to share with you that God for me is a family. We have a father, we have a mother, and we have brothers and sisters. So if we were to accept that notion, then we know that all the souls that are running around here with us on this realm are our brothers and sisters. And so therefore, there's no need to argue with them. There's no need to fight with them about beliefs that we hold in our brain, in our mind, in our ego, really. Because all the fighting, all the conflict between humans, it's all ego. It's all in the ego. It's perceived notions of doctrines and brainwashing and propaganda and you name it. All of it. It's all ego. But once we start removing the ego, once we start releasing the pain and the fears, then we get closer to our hearts, then we get closer to really feeling life and experiencing life the way it's supposed to be felt and supposed to be experienced. And we remember that, wait a second, I am part of this divine family, and whether I have chosen to come to this realm or not, I'm here to learn something. And until I learn my lesson, I'm probably not going to be readmitted into the family upstairs, if you know what I mean. So, in essence then, we are all part of that which we call God. And, many mythical books and, some religious texts even talk about that, although a bit cryptic. But at the end of the day, there was even a CIA document that I think last year was released, declassified, where the CIA basically admits, yep, humanity, everyone's God, we're all God, so there you go. If you want to look that up, there was one guy on YouTube that I saw who did a deep dive on that document. So if you want to go down that rabbit hole, you can. So even the CIA has to admit that, yep, guys, everyone's God. And so now then, if that is true, then everything else is a distraction. Politics, business, finance, you name it, entertainment, yeah? All the stuff that keeps us busy in the head is all a distraction from keeping us from going within, from keeping us away from our own God connection, to reconnect with our divine family. Think about that. So we live in a world where the entire system is set up for you to keep spinning your wheels and run on the hamster wheel, so to speak, right? The rat race, never having enough time to inquire about yourself. Who am I? Why am I here? Why am I feeling this? What is this experience? What is reality? So that you don't get to realize your oneness with God. That's how we come in here. As babies, we're fully open, fully connected. We're sort of still in the between space between the whatever the soul realm is, and this realm, the physical 3D realm, we're fully open. There's no conscious mind. There's no ego. Our hearts are wide open. Yeah. And that's why we touch everything. We explore everything, because we're curious. Like, what is this reality? What is it? And we're curious. We have this glow about our face and this awe and this wonder about what is this, and we want to learn everything. That is how we're supposed to feel. That magic of being a baby and being a toddler and coming into this world completely with untethered curiosity about creation itself. That is the magic of being a human. That is the magic that we're supposed to be feeling. And we absolutely can. That is the hero's journey. Your hero's journey begins once you start looking inside of yourself. Once you start looking, okay, what am I afraid of? Why am I afraid of it? And where did I get it from? And then you realize, oh, what's behind the fear? Oh, there's a pain. Oh, when my mother did this and that when I was 3 years old, that hurt, right? And then I shut down, or whatever the case may be. So, this work is not easy, obviously. It's not for the faint of heart, but you're going to survive. I am living proof of that. And many of my other brothers and sisters who are walking this path with me are living proof of that. And the more fear and pain you release, the more magical your life becomes. If you told me last year, hey, you're going to be making videos and talking about who God is, I was like, well, hold on a second. No. Yeah, up until this morning, I still had that fear about talking about, even saying the word God. So anyway, I hope this rant was entertaining, if not anything else, at least. And I'm sure I'll be talking about this topic more as time goes on, because obviously there's a lot more to explore. So anyway, I hope this was helpful in one shape or another. Oh, and one more thing I wanted to also say, not me, but that's coming through now, is that I was never fully on board with organized religion. I always felt intuitively there's something off about it. Something off. And like all these rules and regulations, and you have to do this on that time of day and this on that day of the week. And all these like mechanistic, scheduled things you have to do during certain times of the year, during certain times of the day. And now that I feel this connection, none of that stuff matters. It doesn't matter. What matters is your own heart connection to that which you perceive to be God. That's all that matters. And there are many ways you can get there. Some people get there through organized religion, and that's perfectly fine. If that's your path, that's awesome. Go for it. For me, that wasn't my path. And, my dad is Muslim. My mom was raised Christian, or Catholic rather, but, she abandoned the church because her parents were terribly abusive to her. But anyway, it never sat right with me. And I wanted to carve my own path towards God. Even though, during my teens, I was rather on the opposite spectrum of faith and belief. We'll talk about that some other day. But I wanted to carve my own path. I wanted to experience for myself, what is God? Who is God, and how do I get there? Where is it? Where is He? Or where is they? Right? So I carved my own path, and I feel that I am at the beginning of, I don't want to even say understanding, because understanding is mine, but at the beginning of the knowing of what this mystery of God is. And I don't think we can ever understand really what it is, or who it is, or where they're from, or what this whole thing is. But that's another hint at the mind will never understand. The mind is limited for a reason. So we will never understand God with our head. And this is why I was like, all this organized religion, it's all sort of trying to fit God into a box and make a bunch of rules about it. And if you check off this list of things to do, then maybe God will accept you, right? But all that really matters is you feeling a direct heart connection to the Creator, to the universe, to God, to the divine family, whatever is most resonant with you. That's what matters. And I hope that you find it any way, shape, or form on your journey in this mad world. So anyway, thank you for watching. I love you. Please let me know in the comments what you think is God or what you feel is God, more so. And thanks again for being on this journey with me. This is going to be some interesting stuff coming down the pipe, I have a feeling. So anyway, thanks a lot, and let me know.